Hello, and welcome to Fortress, Alaska. I'm your host, Dave, and today we are talking about the Browning High Power. It has been in service since 1935 and is still in service today. It was developed by both John Moses Browning and Dieudonné Sèvres. I think is how you pronounce his name. It's French. John Browning died in 1926 during the early stages of development of it, so Dieudonné is the one who brought it to fruition and got it into service in 1935. It has a big improvement for takedown over the 1911, far simpler takedown as you will see later. And the downside is the trigger is really bad because it has a magazine disconnect in it, which means when the magazine is removed, the trigger will not operate. And I can demonstrate that real quickly. So cycle the hammer back, pull the trigger, it functions. Take out the magazine, pull the hammer back, nothing happens. So that's the magazine disconnect. It's considered a safety feature. Keeps people from accidentally shooting themselves when they think they've cleared the gun by just removing the magazine. Many Glock people can tell you about that. Anyways, it also was a big improvement over the 1911 when it comes to capacity. We won't argue calibers here, but when it comes to capacity, you are looking at 13 shots when most military pistols only had 7 or 8. And most of Europe was using 32s, 380s, and 9mm, so there was no discussion over firepower with this one. It far exceeded the firepower of any other European handgun at the time. It went by many names. It's known as the Browning High Power, the P35, the HP35, just the High Power, or the HP, or the GP, which is the French, and I'm not going to try to say those French words, or also the BAP, which is the Browning Automatic Pistol. So it had lots of different names over the years, but people generally know it as the High Power. Anyways, it served in at least 17 wars. It served in about 100 different countries. It was used by both the Axis and Allies in World War II. It was produced by FN for over 82 years. This one was manufactured at FN, but assembled in Portugal to save money. This is a more base model that I obtained in the 80s, and it was poor, and that's what I could afford. It is a locked breech short recoil pistol. Now, here are the interesting things about it. The gun's original design concept was to be striker fire with a 16-round capacity. Imagine a pistol in 1935 that was striker fired with a 16-round capacity. It would have been so far ahead of everything else that it would have blown people's minds. Anyways, to reduce the weight and size, it had to go down to 13 rounds. And the French specifically wanted hammer fire, so that dropped out the striker fired. So yes, it was basically developed for the French military, which never actually adopted it. Like I said, there are some issues with the gun. What limited beaver tail you have is not enough to protect a lot of people's hands, and you do get hammer bite. When the hammer comes back, it'll pinch your finger right there, or pinch your meat right there, and that's not fun at all. So it is an issue. If you have a high grip on the gun, you can get hammer bite quite easily. The beaver tail really needs to be a bit longer than it is. Now, in the 1980s, there was a double action model and double action only models, but they weren't very successful, and you can still find them on the used market today. Today, clones are also made by Gerson and Tisas, both out of Turkey, and of course Springfield Armory makes a clone, and they've improved it by not having the magazine disconnect, and they've also extended the beaver tail so you don't have the hammer bite. So it's a very close clone, but improved slightly to make it better. Now, FN makes a new High Power, which is just a slight name change from this High Power, because this High Power is spelled HI Power, and the new High Power is HIGH, and that's the minor difference between them. The new one is also a single action all metal gun, but it has a 17 round capacity and is much more modern and eliminates most of the issues with the old High Power. Now let's talk about magazines for a moment. If you find the High Power and you want it, the best place to get magazines is from Metgar. Metgar is the manufacturer for most magazines that companies use. You'd be surprised, very few companies make their own magazines. They just have Metgar make them for them. What you do not want to get is the ram line. Yes, I have a ram line here. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I got this ram line back when there really wasn't an internet, and I needed an extra magazine, and that was all I could find. The problem with ram lines is this one, at least particularly, likes to self-disassemble. So you'll see a quick clip here where after two rounds, there's a jam, and then when I checked things out, I found out that the magazine had self-disassembled. So yeah, don't buy ram line. I have it. I keep it as a reminder not to buy it, but I wanted to try it and see if it worked, and yeah, no, it doesn't. It has its issues. Use original magazines or get them from Metgar. So let's quickly go over the features of the gun, starting at the barrel end, the bore end. It is 9mm caliber, 9x19. This particular one has fixed sights. Newer modern guns have dovetail sights, so you can adjust it. I don't know why you'd have to adjust it. You can drift the back one. Nice thing about drifting the back one is you drift in the direction you want to go, whereas the front one you have to drift opposite you want to go. So it's just easier to drift the back one. So as long as the back one's driftable, you're good to go. This is both the slide release and the takedown, and you'll see that in the takedown video. We have a safety, and it has the safety does not engage unless the hammer is back. So then you engage the safety. It's a very positive safety. In the manual of arms, as you carry it cocked and locked, and then when you draw the pistol from your holster, as you bring it up, you just put the safety down, and then you're ready to go. So it's safety down when you bring it out, safety up when you go to put it away. People who complain about safeties don't know how to train themselves, because if you train yourselves to always do it, it becomes muscle memory, and it's not an issue. People who say safeties on your carry gun will get you killed have not done enough training to know how to use a gun. So anyways, so there's nothing wrong with carrying cocked and locked and single action only. They are very effective. Many law enforcement and military still use it, and this gun is still carried by many. So this particular one has an ambidextrous safety, and without a doubt, outside of the CZ75, these are the most ergonomic grips I've ever found on any production pistol. So it is still a wonderful pistol if you can find one today. There's lots of used ones out there. Find one for yourself and have a piece of history. Okay, some more of the features. Like I said, it's single action only, which means after each shot the slide cycles, and you can pull the trigger and fire again, then the slide cycles and does again. It has a magazine release. It is not ambidextrous. It has a standard is a 13 round magazine. You can get 15 round magazines from Metgar if you want. I have a couple extra rounds. I think it's 13 is enough for me, so that's fine. And that's pretty much it. It's a pretty basic all steel gun. Got some heft to it, so there's very little recoil, and it is quite accurate. So it makes a good choice for anybody who likes a single action steel pistol. Now we're going to do the disassembly of the Browning High Power, also known as the P35. As with all semi-autos, remove the magazine. It's empty, set that aside. We'll wipe that down when we're done. Check to clear it's empty. There is no brass in there. We're looking for brass. There's no brass. So the Browning High Power actually has two notches in it. One for the safety, so you carry it cocked and locked. And then it's got a second notch, which you use for disassembly. You set there. Now, it has a button where the far side of the takedown pin is here. You just have to get this up a little bit so that it's not pressing against the frame. And once it's up, it just pushes right out. It's not nearly as difficult as most people say it is. So we'll set that aside. Then you release the safety lever, and she slides right apart. Set the frame aside. Then, once again, being careful. Now do note the position of things. So as you can see, the hole goes down, the little knob goes up. So you want to remember that, because you can actually put this in both ways, which I consider a design flaw, but who am I? I'm no one special, and the guys who designed this were far more intelligent than me. But I believe anything for military use should never have a way to put something in backwards. Anyways, needless to say, take it out, be careful, don't send it flying across the room, don't let it fly into your face. And once again, this was a grease test, and it passed very well. So, you remove the recoil spring. Now, the only thing we have left is to take the barrel out. Just kind of wiggle the barrel out. And there comes out the barrel. So, now I'll clean it, and then we'll show you reassembly. I have finished cleaning, and once again it's heavily oiled, and that's, like I said, because it's going to go in storage for a little while, so I oil it well. So let's look at a couple of little features here, like on the barrel. So this is the old Browning 1911 style, the Colt M1911. So these slots and grooves line up inside the frame. If you can see, if I can get the, you can see them down in there. So they line up in there. Unlike the other sidearms we were looking at, where they use the SIG style of lockup, which is just onto the slide. Also, as you can see, the Browning High Power from 1935 went to a linkless design, which really surprised me that the P85 wasn't linkless, because this is fewer parts, so this is probably cheaper to machine and make. My opinion. I could be wrong, but I would think it is. Anytime you have a part you have to track and follow and manufacture, it adds cost. I think this would have been a cheaper design and probably a better design. Anyway, so the Browning High Power, put the barrel back in, find those slots and lock it in there, so now you know it's in the right place. Once again, get your recoil spring. Once again, safety glasses and pay attention, because you don't want to send this flying across the room. So we put that in there and slide that, and it snaps right into place. And as you can see, it's in the same orientation as I showed it before, with the little knob up and the hole that it will go through down. Then we take the slide, put the slide onto the frame, take it all the way back, and as you can see, we'll lock it in that second notch right there. Now that makes putting this in much easier, because it's locked in place. So we'll just set that down, start getting that through. It's in. We make sure that it's lined up into the hole perfectly, and press it the rest of the way home. There we go. It has to be up when you push it through, because otherwise it hits the frame. So there you go. It's home and it's in. Now, drop the slide. Let's check. Oh, magazine has been wiped down. I keep forgetting there's a magazine disconnect. Put the magazine in. Check. Fires. Locks back. The slide drop. Put the safety on. Safety works. Drop it. Drop the hammer. It works. So, it's all function test. Reassembled. We'll do a little more oiling down and put it away. So thank you for watching the blast from the past on the Browning High Power. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, leave comments down below, do anything to help the algorithm. You can find me on Patreon. You can also find me on YouTube is really starting to crack down on gun channels or anything to do with firearms. So You might want to start switching to Utreon. I suggest everybody start watching things on Utreon and get away from the politics involved with YouTube. Utreon's policy is if it's legal, it can be there. So they're open-minded, let you cover anything as long as it's legal. So go ahead. And so thank you again for watching. Once again, I'm your host Dave with Fortress Alaska, and have a good day and get out shooting.